Hi, Bookborn. How is everyone? I hope that you are enjoying the events that are going on right now and you've been enjoying hanging out with our vampires because trust me, they are having a lot of fun with you. I am going to be reading the prologue from Celine, and my hair is falling out. Hold on, bear with me just a second. You get to see me fix my hair. How cool is that? Pretty cool. I'm into it. That's attractive. That's super attractive. Hold on, guys. Well, that didn't work. Okay, whatever. No bobby pin. We're fine. Yay. Okay. All right. Again, this is going to be the prologue from Celine. It's pretty short, but it's the only real part that I'm super comfortable sharing right now. Here we go. And also, fun fact. Hi, Tanya. Another fun fact before I get started. I actually can't read. It's a debilitating, illiteracy is a real problem. I just guess the shapes. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. And also my dogs are in the room. So if you hear hacking, wheezing, I have an old pup and he's kind of sick. And then the other one is drinking right now. And I'd show you, but there's trash over there, so I don't want anybody to see my trash. So anyway, are you guys ready? I'm ready. So bear with me, I'm kind of nervous. I actually can read. Sorry if you didn't get that was a joke. That was a joke. And if this actually isn't showing up on Bookborn again, somebody tell me. So, okay. The girl wandered down the dark, wet sidewalk in the middle of Black Heights. The unacknowledged paranormal neighborhood sat on the outskirts of Manhattan and was infamous for its high population of paranormal beings. Around her, shop after shop began to close up for the night. Customers filed out of the businesses, smiling and hugging one another. Some carried different-sized bags filled to the brim with purchases. They all wore flowing, New Age-type clothing and reeked of patchouli oil and incense. The girl sniffed loudly and rubbed her nose at the overwhelming stench. They shot her a sideways glance as she passed. A witch with lavender hair and mismatched eyes peeked her head out of her shop. Electricity rolled up her body, making her appear like a human-shaped Tesla coil. Pausing, the girl turned to the witch in an attempt to acknowledge her stare. She shot the girl a dirty look. "Get out of here, you filthy demon!" the witch spat, raising her hand. A ball of electricity began to grow out of her palm. Air crackled around her, and bluish-white sparks jumped off of her body. The girl shrank away from the witch, continuing down the sidewalk. She could hear loud rock music blaring from a bar the next block over. Surely they would have what she was looking for. Her stomach growled, accompanied by a burning feeling creeping up into her throat as she approached the bar. She did her best to shake it off. Her thirst would be quenched soon enough. She ran her fingers through her shoulder-length black hair and walked through the door into the smoke-filled bar. The loud music seemed to vibrate the air around her. She walked past the crowded tables filled with older women sporting bad dye jobs and fake boobs, and perfectly round older men with long beards and ill-fitting leather. Approaching the long wooden counter, she hopped up onto a stool and waited. The polished counter was sticky. She moved her arm to rest on the edge of it, attempting to hide the look of disgust creeping onto her face. The idea of asking for a drink quickly came and went. She knew she looked her age, and there was no point in trying to hide it. Grabbing a toothpick out of the dispenser, she put the thin wooden stick between her lips and turned around on her seat in an attempt to get a better view of her surroundings. Each passing patron was given a once-over. She was just waiting for the right person to draw her attention. A guy with too many muscles and a terrible spray tan caught her eye. She smiled to herself. Jackpot. He sauntered over to her. The pearl-snap shirt and ripped jeans threatened to tear apart with each step he took. As he sidled up to her, she winked at him and leaned back a bit, trying to push her nearly non-existent chest out. "Aren't you a little young to be in here?" The guy rested his elbows on the bar next to her. Well, I've always been a bit of a bad girl, she said with a coy giggle. He flashed a cocky grin and leaned in closer to her. Reaching out, he gently brushed away a strand of hair that had fallen into her face. She swallowed back against the thirst and slipped off of her stool and into him. The heat radiating off of his body was nearly overwhelming. She placed a hand on his chest, tracing her fingers up the column of buttons. You, want to get out of here? She stood on tiptoes to whisper in his ear. He looked down at her, searching her face for some sort of sign that she was joking. She closed the deal with a wide grin and hooked her index finger into the belt loop of his jeans. A quick glance up to find the back exit, and she led him through the crowd towards the back door. She felt him hesitate briefly, but she subtly managed to help him along. Once out in the alley, his reservations melted away as he pushed her against the wall, kissing her roughly. His thick tongue darted out and forced its way into her mouth. Pulling away and hiding a grimace, she ripped his shirt open in one quick motion. As she lightly scraped her nails over his chest, his lips found their way to the base of her neck. She let out a soft moan in an attempt to egg him on. The roughness of his lips tickled her skin, causing her to jump slightly. The swelling in his jeans rubbed against her leg, and she tried to move away from it. He bit at the soft flesh of her throat, and she couldn't contain herself anymore. The girl roughly pulled the guy's head to the side and sank her teeth into his neck. He cried out in pain as she began to drink. His hot blood poured into her mouth, quenching the burn in her throat. The guy began to convulse, and his eyes rolled back into his head. She pulled back, pausing to lick the spots of blood around his open wounds. When the shaking stopped, she returned to his neck, drinking more of him. Once he was completely drained and his body had gone limp, she laid his body on the ground and adjusted his shirt to fully cover his bare chest. Adjusting her own clothes and letting out a relieved breath, she stepped over his body and walked gingerly towards the street. The gentle hum against the skin of her left wrist sent calming sensations through her. The white mark glowed brightly, and the girl did her best to hide it by shoving her hand into her pocket. As she neared the road, two burly-looking men dressed in black stepped into the opening of the alley, blocking her from getting through. She paused briefly in her tracks and peered at them. With a confused shake of her head, the girl turned around and walked back towards the bar. Two more darkly dressed figures stepped out from the door to the bar and stood in her way. She stopped completely. A growl began to build low in her throat, and the hair on the back of her neck stood on end. She turned back towards the first set of men and braced herself for whatever was coming. A tall man with slicked-back, dark blonde hair stepped around the two men and towards her. He cleared his throat as he clasped his hands behind his back and stood at ease. "Vampire, you are under arrest by the Slayer Organization for crimes against the human race," he began. The two black-clad figures that had come from the bar walked up behind her and took her by the arms. "You do not have any rights from this moment forward. You are The man stopped. As the girl struggled against her captors, she exposed her mark. He raised an eyebrow in curiosity and approached her. Taking hold of her wrist, he examined it closely. The smell of leather and spice filled her nostrils, and she let out a deep growl. She tried to pull her hand out of his grip, but he only tightened it. "What are you?" He searched her eyes for a hidden answer. Baring her teeth, the girl lunged at him. He stepped back with a chuckle. "You are definitely worth looking into." He turned away from her and walked back towards the mouth of the alley. One of the men grabbing her, wrenched her arm, holding it against her back. She knew that one wrong move would break it. Cuffs closed tightly around her wrists, and the grip on her arm loosened. Her legs were kicked out from under her, and she fell. One of her captors grabbed the links of the cuffs and started dragging her towards the street. "Let me go!" the girl screamed. "Help me! Please, someone!" A dog barked somewhere off in the distance, but the neighborhood remained quiet. Cries for help were not uncommon in Black Heights. No one was coming to help her. The Slayers, as they called themselves, dragged the girl out to the sidewalk and into the back of a dark van, waiting against the curb. The blonde man shot her a final dark smile before closing the doors and plunging her into darkness. So that was the prologue to Celine. I need to get back to my computer and let Harper finish up her segment, but I I'm really proud of this rewrite, so I really wanted to share it with you, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. If I can find another excerpt, I may do another one for my for the next hour that I have, which I think is at midnight. I have to double check. I don't know what time it is now, so I don't think that helps me. But anyway, yeah. So thank you guys so much, and yeah, Harper will be back shortly.